Hello, I'm Dr. Selma Bartholomew. Welcome to the Dr. Selma B Show. I'm excited to have the opportunity to engage with you. I'm an educator, an entrepreneur, and a mom, and I'm excited to take this time to connect with you and share some of my experience and expertise. My goal is to inspire you and to have courageous talk on turning the corners of life. That means we get to explore a range of topics in life, from education, parenting, leadership, community, and other zippy topics. Thanks in advance for liking the channel and subscribing. The topic for today is compassion. What we associate the concept of compassion with is extremely limited, and in fact, only a drop in the bucket. Today, if you check out the commercials for hospitals, nursing homes, and other care facilities, take a close listen, and you will almost likely hear in their brand tagline the word compassion. Well, as you know, this is the Dr. Selma B Show, and my goal is to help us look in the box, around the box, and inside of the box. We come to the understanding that compassionate care is needed for our elderly, the sick, and at points in our life when we are most vulnerable, when we are in need of help to care for ourselves. Yet compassionate is one of the big ideas, holding ground with love. Yet it is not in our school's curriculum, and as our children leave our homes in the morning, we don't tell our children, have a compassionate day. My talk with you today is about compassion, not so much about compassionate and being compassionate to others. Instead, today I want to focus on learning how to be compassionate to yourself. To be honest, I did not know about being compassionate to myself in my 20s or my 30s, but now Dr. B is 25 again. And my mission is to become a warrior and to learn how to become a warrior in having compassion for myself so that I can in turn truly be compassionate to others. That's right, compassion for self. When we talk about compassion for others, but we don't have and we don't practice compassion for ourselves, why is that? In this season of COVID-19, I wanted to just take the time and space for this topic. First, we have to admit that this is a season of overwhelming loss, change, letting go, uncertainty, trauma, fear, and anxiety. Did I miss any? Feel free to add to the list. However, I also think it is a season of intentionality and quiet if you're willing to stop. Life is challenging, and to be honest, yeah, it is overwhelming. Before COVID-19, during COVID-19, and it'll be overwhelming even after this pandemic is done. And the hashtag "we're all in it together" makes sense to me. But remember, this is the Dr. Selma B Show, and we're not afraid to look at a different view. I'm not sitting in your shoes, and let me be the first to say to you that what I am going through is not what you are going through. And you can't fully make a connection to the idea that we are all in the same boat if you're not willing to be open and sticky about your suffering. And suffering rears its ugly head. You can make a simple mistake like sending someone the wrong email, and then you go into self-inflicting pain and start to beat up on yourself and say tons of sorries. If you're a leader and in some kind of customer-driven position where you have to be constantly taking care of others, then compassion for self is a must. Those companies who claim the tagline of compassion, I find that they rarely have compassion for their staff, and the culture of our workplace has become very toxic. And that's why compassion matters to me, and I want it to matter to you. Compassion for self, because the list of self-inflicted pain feels endless to me. And today, we're not running around hiding from dinosaurs and trying to make fire. Instead, we have become predators against each other. Our communities are not safe, and even places that we call home are not safe spaces. Self-inflicted pain. Let me give you an example. You can go to a party, and there are all the treats that you can imagine. It has an open bar, it has a candy station, it has the meat station, you name it, and you can just indulge. And you do. I mean, after all, it's a party. You go home, you go to sleep, and in the middle of the night, you wake up and you just feel the heaviness and the body is aching and telling you, what did you do that for? You know you can't eat like that anymore. You know that the body can't handle all that extra. And then you start the guilt trip. Compassion for self in that very moment is making the decision that you don't want to feel that way anymore. Don't think that this is just a woman issue, right? Ladies, did you know that men save belts with the hope that sooner or later the gut will disappear? Compassion for self. Maybe you let go of all those different dress sizes in your closet because it's too painful to keep beating up on yourself about the fact that you're not that size 6 anymore. The self-inflicted pain ranges from alcohol, cigarette, overeating, obesity, stress, anxiety, not being able to ask for help, working long hours, working crazy hours, the never-ending to-do list on the weekend. You want me to stop, right? Yeah. This is the Dr. B Show. So let's stop a minute. In the COVID-19 season, we discovered that we can stop. However, the season has created an even more toxic environment for too many. Suicide and domestic violence are up. It says we don't know how to deal with our internal spirit. We don't know how to pay attention. If you've not seen my episode on paying attention, I hope you can find a moment to view it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So, how do we begin to learn how to have compassion for ourselves? Well, beloved, start where you are. First, learning how to have compassion is not linear. In other words, you may say to me, Dr. B, I finally learned how not to do the endless running around all weekend. But guess what? I still don't know how to deal with that difficult relationship I'm in. You exist in different spaces, and therefore, you have to choose a place that you want to begin to work on. Even in that challenge, there's an opportunity. Beloved, what's wrong with practicing loving kindness for yourself by reminding yourself that you can't do it all? I want to talk about open-mindedness as you work on having compassion for yourself. When I coach leaders and teachers and try to help them understand why compassion for self is important, I get pushback. Most educators don't stop. They feel like they are on skates because they're trying to meet the needs of each and every child. That's overwhelming. So sometimes the pushback happens and they don't want to have compassion because they're in a place of control. Control means that you are doing all the work in your classroom, and if you're the leader, you're doing all of the work in your school building. Most principals are on the road 5 a.m. in the morning so that they can get to their school building by 6:30 to just have a moment of quiet to get through the tons of emails and just breathe through before the floodgates open up in the morning. The demands of having so many people with high needs to care for pushes you to a place of control. The same issue if you're a mom or a parent. If you feel overwhelming, so we keep our list and end up doing all the work ourselves. Open-mindedness means that you have to admit that if you want to alleviate your pain and learn how to practice loving kindness for yourself and the stress that comes from doing all the work and controlling every situation, you will have to check to see if you are truly open-minded. Are you open-minded to teamwork? Teamwork doesn't happen quickly. So when it feels like it's not working, do you shut it off and just grab and take back control? Or will you have compassion for yourself and say that it's hard? So let me be patient. Let me learn how to do this. Are you open-minded to delegating, to asking for help, letting go, to going back and asking for help again? Because sometimes people don't answer right away. To become compassionate for yourself, you have to become relentless in the pursuit of ending your pain. I'm not talking about ego or abusing another person. That's not what compassion is about. The suffering you're feeling from being stressed out on the job, people thought that working from home during COVID-19 would be the greatest thing ever. But if you took a look at the same toxic behavior you had in the workspace, and if you took it into your home space, now the anger and the depression increases because you don't have all those other directions and distractions in order to move to. This is the Dr. B Show, so let's keep unpacking. The next piece about having compassion for yourself is you have to become intentional. To practice compassion for self, you have to become intentional. And what do I mean by that? What do you have to become intentional about? You have to make a plan to disrupt and interrupt negative behaviors. So in other words, if you want to lose a few extra pounds, it won't come if you don't interrupt and disrupt negative habits of mind and behavior. The approach to dieting does not work because you have to shift mindset. You have to decide you want to end the pain. And then that leads to making a decision to changing habits. And when you fall back into old habits, you have to forgive yourself again. And then you can restart. And to disrupt what you do in that moment matters. Often we will say after the holidays, I'll start my diet. Or, I ate bad all day, it doesn't matter now. So tomorrow I'll get started. No, you have to interrupt and make the decision that you want to learn how to practice loving kindness in that very moment. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to unpack with you and staying with me on the Dr. Selma B Show. Let's keep unpacking. To become compassionate, you have to be hopeful. Being kind to myself is priceless and not always easy. And I don't want you to think that I will ever get it down completely. Why? Because we've made a mess of this world and it impacts what I do as well as what I and you have to do to survive. We all have bills. Once again, we can look at this season and the failure of leadership to get timely information to us and to not have a public health system in place. We all struggle. But in spite of the challenges, I have to want to not self-inflict pain on myself. I have to be hopeful. And I have to become intentional, create a plan that I will see change. As a mathematician, I want you to know that hope cannot exist without the variable of time. You can't say that you're hopeful and expect it to happen overnight. That's not having compassion for yourself, once again. If you're going to learn how to practice loving kindness to yourself, remain hopeful, know that it does not happen overnight. The next piece about compassion for self is that it allows you to stretch yourself. Let's talk about stretching yourself. I'm going to give you a word, and the word is purple. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I'm going to ask you to whisper the word purple and scream the word purple. Ready? Close your eyes, and I want you to whisper the word purple. Now close your eyes, and I want you to scream the word purple. Did you realize that it is the same tone? That God built you with a compassion meter? Don't believe me? Try it again a couple of times to confirm it. That's right. God built you with a compassion meter because the Creator wanted you to practice loving kindness for yourself. When you choose not to judge yourself, See the self-loathing and abuse that we put ourselves through? I want to stretch you, because when we stretch, you have to let go. Let go of the past, which means being present in your goals and being present in your work and your family, and learning how to forgive yourself. Our health is stress related. I thought I was good at it, but it turns out I am always learning. Check out our webinar on the health crisis facing Black women. We are most likely to die from heart disease and cancer. 20 years old and above, we have 56% obesity rate, and the high blood pressure rate is more than 44%. The reasons are complex. Yes, there is historical racism and inequities, which fuels stress. It's hard to care for yourself when you are stressed about paying your bills and taking care of yourself. But we have to learn how to practice loving kindness. Finally, I want you to make time to meditate. I am no expert in meditating, but what I have learned about it and why I value it so much is that I get to push breath. When I fill up and overflow with hope, I get to send it to places where I need it to be when I meditate. Find a quiet spot and time. Close your eyes. And I go into my meditation with the one intention of learning how to master compassion for myself. I find what is hurting and I just shine a light on it. And as I breathe, I push into that challenge and ask myself to let it go, accept help, be open-minded to figuring it out. If you find that you want to remember the goal, it's another opportunity to forgive yourself and interrupt the pattern of wandering and refocus. Don't give up and say, oh, my mind wanders, I can't go, so I'm not going to meditate. That was the point, that you learn how to do it and come back to it. This is the part I love most about meditating, and I know most people don't do this, but I love it. So if you at least try, this is the one thing I'd like you to do. It feels like a good scratch when I do it. I close my eyes and I shine my light on places that are not aching me, places that are not hurting me. It could be your pinky or your big toe. I get to focus on it because that's how I learn how to let go of the stress of the day. Try it. I promise you, it's the best feeling ever. You cannot learn to have compassion for others if you don't have compassion for yourself. You can't look out that window and be truly committed to helping another person if you can't see and sit with your pain and see your pain in another person's pain. I will say that again in case you missed it. If you're willing to see your pain in another person's pain, and if in that moment you become judgment-free rather than angry at the person for their condition, to be compassionate is not to blame that person for the circumstances they are in and hate on them for being in a challenging position and blame them for their circumstances. Learning how to be compassionate is seeing your pain in another person's pain. It doesn't mean that you have to rescue the person from the pain. The first step is just being able to acknowledge it. And in fact, I plan on doing a show on wishing you discomfort, my friend. That's right. Discomfort makes you grow. I hope that my discussion on compassion has helped you to take a risk and turn a corner with confidence. Thanks for liking and subscribing to the Dr. Selma B Show. I want to say to you, my friend, that saying thanks is not the same as giving thanks. I give thanks for you. Promise me that you will pour yourself a cup of compassion today and sip it slowly.